What's up next? Talking about Carr and his potential suitors?
Yes. So apparently, per Roto World, which is actually a fairly good source, and then a Raiders beat writer, multiple teams have been inquiring about Derek Carr. I think this was a little bit of the writing on the wall type of situation. The Raiders brought in Marcus Mariota. Gruden seems to be a fan of him. He's going to be making like $10 million next year. The Raiders need to kind of make some cap space too. They could cut Mariota or they could trade Derek Carr. Derek Carr is a good quarterback, man. And he showed that in 2020. I think that he really was that borderline top 10 quarterback situation, kind of similar to Matthew Stafford, some would probably say. Are you interested in this? If you're the Bears, are you in on Derek Carr?
I'm in on him because I feel like, he could potentially be the steal of the market, I think, as far as what output you can get out of him, what performance. I mean, you remember like the second year of his career, people were calling for Derek Carr to honestly be like the next big thing, just with how hot he started his career. And then he kind of ran into some more turnover issues, some injuries that kind of just knocked him off of his game. I think that maybe he can't get quite back up to the level that he, maybe hit early on in his career, but I think he can definitely, be a good quarterback, and he showed it in this past year. I think that I would definitely be interested. I think off the top of my head, I'd say that, for Derek Carr, you're giving up a first and an asset or a late round pick.
Yeah, honestly, some change, I'm sure.
It's not going to be nearly as much as the Stafford haul. I can tell you that.
Yeah, I know.
And honestly, it could be good bang for your buck. And when you're talking about a situation where, in the short little video that I released on YouTube, where maybe they don't want to commit to something as big as Watson because they don't know quite what they're going to do with Nagy and Pace, Carr seems like a good fit. And to me, a lot of people would say that it's going for, the next best guy, kind of that we did with Glennon and with Foles. But at the same time, I think it's different. Derek Carr to me is better than each of those quarterbacks, has shown it at a more consistent level over the course of a season.
I'm gonna throw out a name out here as to kind of how I view Derek Carr potentially moving his team situation. I see this as a Carson Palmer situation. He's a good quarterback. He can win some playoff games, I believe. I don't know if he's never going to be, the best quarterback in the NFL, but he's a good enough quarterback that you can say, hey, I've got a good quarterback. Don't even need to think about the position right now until, maybe we stumble upon the top pick in the draft, kind of like the Colts did with Peyton Manning the year Andrew Luck was coming out. It would just be a solution too. It's another quarterback that you look at it and you say, hey, don't need to worry about it. And also Derek Carr, man, he can be your quarterback for a lot longer of a time than Matthew Stafford is going to be able to be on the Rams.
100%. Yeah, he has a lot less mileage on him at this point.
And I would be totally interested in that. The beat reporter was saying they could fetch 2 first-round picks. I don't believe that, man. I really don't.
I think so.
I think maybe you get a first and a second, or maybe a first and a future second. I don't know if you can quite get that 2 first-round pick mark, but who knows? Honestly,
it's just because his name hasn't been floated out there as much, and I think he's a quality quarterback. There are some parts of his game that aren't perfect, like he'll make some bad mistakes, and he's never been a perfect quarterback, but at the same time, I feel like he's good enough to be a winner. He's
Definitely
good enough to, when the team is playing well and the offense is in good shape. And if you give him, even if with the Raiders, he's kind of gone through having good weapons and then not having amazing weapons, so he's kind of been through it all. And he's someone that if you give him the targets, like he made Michael Crabtree look like an excellent receiver.
Yeah.
You give him some decent weapons, he's going to be someone that's going to be able to collect some good yardage and put you in some very favorable positions. So, yeah, you get someone like Carr, you start beefing up this offensive line, get a good tackle, add, if they end up keeping A-Rob, have A-Rob. If not, get another receiver that will get on later. But you get someone like Watkins in there potentially. I think he's someone that can work with Watkins. I think he's someone that could definitely work with someone like Corey Davis. But yeah, we'll get into that.
And I think that someone like I believe giving him to someone like Matt Nagy could also make him look like such a better quarterback than he is now. Because I don't think we ever quite saw Derek Carr become a better quarterback because John Gruden stepped in. He's always just kind of been the same guy. If you give someone like Matt Nagy, who made Mitch Trubisky look like a half-decent quarterback for, a couple of seasons, especially what he was doing with him at the end of the season when he was on pace for like 40 touchdowns. If he were to play the entire season, man, I can't imagine that he would be any sort of bust. And that's really what I think the best thing about him is the sense of stability the Bears can have. He's going to be better than Cutler for sure. And look how long Cutler was around. But then, someone who's not as optimistic, someone who's a little bit of a pessimist might say, hey, kind of having a quarterback that's not great but good enough isn't, is pretty bad in the NFL,
Yeah, and I get that. As much as I say it'd be great to have Derek Carr, 100%. The best thing would be the Bears get their long-term franchise quarterback, whether it be Watson or through the draft. And that it's their quarterback for 15 years. 100%. Mm-hmm. If that is between having Derek Carr and having that, I will take that. But we also have to be realistic and, we don't know exactly what the ownership's mentality is. We don't know exactly what Pace's mentality is. We can make good predictions and good guesses. But we're working all through hypotheticals here, and what goes through my head is that having Derek Carr on this team would overall be a good thing, and that, the step up in the offense that we could see, Carr's football IQ was a lot better than Mitch's. I'll just throw that out there. And he's got the arm and everything to go with it. So that's all I'll say.
Yeah, no, I think that he could win us a couple of playoff games. I think he could get to the Super Bowl. I think you put a good enough team around Derek Carr, he can go to the Super Bowl.
I think so.
That year what did he break his leg? I mean, that team looked like they were gonna go to the Super Bowl. They were amazing. Weren't they like 15-1? No, they weren't 15-1. What were they? They're like 13-2 or 13-3. Sorry,
13-3, something like that. Yeah, they definitely won the division that year. I think they kind of flamed out in the playoffs, but yeah, they were good.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we could recreate that with Derek Carr. His biggest issue as a quarterback so far has been the shitty positions his defense have left him in. I mean, he constantly has to essentially outscore teams, which sucks as a quarterback. Similar to kind of what Matthew Stafford was doing as well.
Hey guys, like our video, subscribe, and check out our bi-weekly podcast on Apple Podcasts. Thanks.